All right, everybody, welcome back to the Friday Night Prepper Pre-Party Show. So glad to have you back. As usual, let me know down in the comments or chat, in the chat, if we're having some audio problems. Just kind of shout it out. A couple weeks ago, I had a major problem with that, and I basically was streaming for like 10 minutes and not realizing that the chat was screaming at me, we can't hear you. So I'm going to pay more attention to that today. I'm going to introduce our guest here in just a minute, and I want to go through a couple quick housekeeping things, and then we'll introduce him. We'll get to our topic of today, which of course is the CBDC. And we'll explain what that is if you don't know what that is. We've got tons and tons of notes. Digital and I were talking backstage. We may not even get to all of this tonight, so we may end up doing a part 2. But a couple things before we even get into that. If you're brand new to the channel, welcome. If you find anything of value today, please consider subscribing and give me a thumbs up. And also, please check out my guest, Digital Prepper. His link is in the description, but we'll also put it in chat a few times tonight as well. And happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I hope you all are having a great weekend ahead of you. I hope you got some good stuff planned. We're going to talk a little bit more about fathers at the end of this one here as part of my closing. And if you're if you're not a dad, but your dad is still alive, consider giving him a call. Again, we'll talk more about that later on this weekend. A couple things going on in my own little area here. This is a very tough weekend for my city. It's a very solemn weekend for my city. So if you are a praying person, regardless of what faith you are, I ask for your prayers for Charleston. Tomorrow is the anniversary of the Mother Emanuel shooting where 9 people lost their lives, and then Sunday is the anniversary of the Charleston 9 tragedy where 9 firefighters lost their lives fighting the fire that had gotten out of control at the Super Sofa store. So it's a tough weekend for anniversaries for trauma in my city. It's going to be a lot of people in a lot of emotional pain. So if you can send your prayers to Charleston, we greatly appreciate that. If you're not a praying person, then just kind of keep us in your thoughts. Got a couple other announcements we'll hit at the end. So I think notifications should be getting out. I think I see a few people starting to pop into chat. So my guest tonight needs no introduction. Some people think he is the hidden leader for Anonymous. Other people say that he has been spotted flying drones in other parts of the world. Other people say that he's the future leader of the resistance against Skynet. He's your favorite white hat hacker. My friend and yours, please welcome the Digital Prepper. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. It's nice to be back here.
It's good to have you back. I always enjoy having you on the stream. And did you like that intro I worked up for you?
Yeah, it's pretty true. I think so.
Okay. So is it true that you are the secret leader of Anonymous?
I cannot confirm or deny that.
All right, great. Well, we'll keep trying to get to the bottom of that. In the meantime, as as the white hat hacker that is here to save us all, we appreciate that we must keep your identity concealed. What do you got going on lately? Is there any new projects, any announcements, anything you want to shout out?
Not necessarily. I did do a review on a air gapped piece of technology. So yeah, check that out if you haven't already. It's pretty cool. Air gap technology is something that I kind of just got introduced to. So it's pretty cool. I've also been fooling around with the harvest right. So I got some freeze dried content coming out as well. Trying awesome. To kind of branch out a little bit. But yeah.
How's the mushroom going for you?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's it's pretty good. They like pounds of mushrooms every like few weeks. So
have you gotten to the part where like you've dehydrated it as much as you're going to dehydrate, now you're just giving it away?
Yeah, pretty much. Either that or I pick them, and I like cook them along with whatever other kind of food that we have. But yeah, any excess either goes in the freeze dryer or gets dehydrated or however else. But yeah, other than that, they get sent off to like friends and family.
Awesome. What's the best tasting one in your opinion?
Oh man. So a lot of the oyster varieties like pink oyster, king oyster, blue or pearl oyster. most of the oysters, they're great because they taste delicious, as well as they grow pretty fast as well. Chestnuts are a kind of like an underdog. They grow fairly slow, but they grow maybe like 3 or 4 pounds per flush.
Oh, wow.
So they're pretty tasty as well.
Awesome.
Those
Very
are my
cool.
faves right now.
Very cool. Well, y'all, if you're paying attention, definitely check out the Digital Preppers channel. He's got some great content over there. Always keeps us up to date on like security stuff for computers, viruses, things like that, and knows way more about that stuff than I ever will in my entire life. So glad to have you, and good resource for the community. All right,
Appreciate it.
let's say hi to chat real quick. I saw some people popping in. Lee, Cold War Prepper, always good to see you. Broken Neck, always good to see you, my friend. Maccabeus. Yeah, I'm not gonna respond to that, Manny. And Prepping by Faith, good to see you. Yeah, so just to clarify, I do work with first responders. I'm a therapist by trade, and that's population I work with. So, whatever, regardless of whatever your feelings are out there, I'm just not gonna share something like that out. All right, let's get into our topic for today, which is CBDC, which stands for what, Digital?
Central bank digital currency.
All right, how do we break this down for people who've never heard this before? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I can kind of give like a very simplistic overview of central bank digital currency. So essentially, it's if you look at China actually has a central bank digital currency out there. They allow digital yuan payments in the cities that they're piloting this out. And it essentially is a federally mandated and controlled bank that allows their citizens to make payments via like some sort of app or whatever that's set up by the government. And because of that, their central bank is able to monitor every transaction that is made. So unlike other digital currencies like Bitcoin or any other crypto, it doesn't have any anonymity.
So do you know the answer to this? Because I don't. Are they having they're still using fiat though for now, right?
Over in China?
Yeah, they use both.
Yeah, they use both, but I mean they're kind of pushing that CBDC.
Okay. We may get to that too, like if it rolled out in the United States, like how that might look. But they called it, when I was doing my research, coexistence period or something like that, where there'd be a period of time where presumably you would use both types of currencies. So yeah, it's a digital currency that would presumably replace the dollar, right? So there would be no physical currency in theory, that is, you wouldn't go to the bank and cash dollars and get change. You wouldn't, use change at like your vending machines, things like that. It just wouldn't exist anymore.
Exactly. And like in some aspects, some people would think, oh well, I can connect my if it's all federally mandated, I can kind of connect my my bills and all that kind of stuff to it, and it'll be like more secure or whatever, however you want to word that. But yeah, like you said, we'll we'll go over that stuff.
Yeah. So I had a kind of a fun game here, and it sounded like when you and I were talking backstage, you and I were kind of researching the same stuff. I thought we could talk about 5 pros and 5 cons of this, and what I'd like to do is so I got my data. This stuff here came from ChatGPT. Where did you do yours from?
So I kind of went back. Like I said, I have a video actually. It's titled "Rise of Digital Currency: The End of the Dollar." So I kind of went back there to start off to kind of do a little bit of research, and then I kind of branched out from there.
Okay. So I thought what I'll do is let me read what ChatGPT gave me for the 5 pros and the 5 cons.
Okay.
And I want to hear if you agree. And then if you agree, then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the cons. And then we'll go into the pros. And then we'll go into the c right? Like if this is a pro, if you agree it's a pro, and then I'll give you my thought, and then chat, I'd like to hear your thoughts, true or false, basically.
Okay.
And if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in caps so we can catch them. Yes, so it's like Bitcoin in a way, but it would be basically government controlled. Yes, that's
exactly.
Pretty fair analogy. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too, Robbie, that like, is it safe, right?
Right.
I think we'll get to that. All right, so first one, these that we're in the pros list now, right?
Okay.
This is from ChatGPT. Financial inclusion. CBDCs have the potential to provide financial services to the unbanked and underbanked populations, allowing for greater inclusion in the digital economy. What do you think?
I kind of disagree with that. I strongly disagree with that.
Yeah, like I strongly do too. You go ahead first.
I was gonna say, like, how, because what did they say? They say I believe the metric is there's like 3 to 5% of people like in the United States that don't have their money with any sort of bank. And yeah, I mean, if they don't have their money in any sort of bank, so what? Or you're just gonna kind of kick them out and not, like their money has no value because it's not in the federally mandated bank, which it doesn't make too much sense.
And I think that I disagree with this one strongly too. Just through the work that I've done, with all different populations, I can tell you that a large percentage of the poor do not use any kind of banking at all.
Right.
When they get paid, they are using like a check cashing service or something like that. But a lot of the people that I've worked with that were in the lower income brackets did not even have a bank account. So I don't think this is about inclusion. I really don't. I think this is about something else.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go on to number 2. Reduced transaction costs. CBDC transactions can potentially reduce transaction costs associated with cash handling, printing, distribution, leading to more efficient and cost-efficient payment systems. True or false?
Repeat that?
So in other words, it would save money on how money is printed, distributed, moved around, cash handling. The costs of all of that would be significantly reduced.
Oh, okay. I mean, I can understand that. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I think that's probably mostly true, right? Like they obviously printing out fiat money does cost money, right?
Right.
They probably, if they did this digitally, would save some money for that. What I don't think so when they talk about transaction costs and things like that, so like if you do bank transfers or cash advances or anything like that, there's a fee that usually goes along with that. I don't think that that's going to be reduced for the consumer, for the average citizen. So there's no cost savings for the average citizen, except maybe your tax money, but I don't think you'd see it in a tax break. I think the money would just be diverted to something else. Okay, let's see what chat's saying here. Robbie says true. Okay. Yeah, so if you guys agree or disagree in chat, let us know what you think. Enhanced monetary policy, and I think this is the big one. I think this is the reason why I think it will happen. CBDCs could provide central banks with improved tools. And when we say central banks, we're talking about the Fed, right? With improved tools for implementing monetary policy, allowing for more precise control over monetary supply, interest rates, and economic stabilization measures.
Yep.
What do you think?
That's going to be pretty much the main reason for this.
Yeah, I agree. They want to be able to see what's happening in real time, monitor it, and control it. And as we've seen with the last year here, interest rates they're not shy about moving them around. And they seems to be this belief that that's the only way that we can improve our economy, or that it's the main way. I guess is not the only way. That I guess it's working. I mean, the data keeps saying that little by little inflation is supposedly coming down. Mrs. Sarge and I have been talking about this, and we're like, well, I don't feel it. But then we did look at our checking account, and there was like, okay, there was a little bit more money this month than there was last month, and we're like, okay. So I don't know. What do you think on your end? Are you seeing that? Is there any change? Let's just say inflation. Are you seeing any improvement from where you're at?
No. In fact, over in Illinois, they're actually like there was like a freeze on the amount of like taxes that could be put on things like gas and groceries. That's it's being lifted starting in I want to say July. So that means that gas and groceries are gonna see raises in prices. Unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point there, right? That's again, it's so if you're a content creator, you would have already known this anyways, because if you make more than $600, I'm not even talking about like Google AdSense stuff. I'm talking about like any of the companies that you might work with, brands that you might work with. If you make more than $600 and it's paid through like say PayPal or something like that, it's getting reported. Banks, of course. Is that true that for all bank transactions over 600? Like if I deposited, let's say that I went to the bank and I deposited $650 in cash, is that being reported? Because the number used to be like 8,000. Do you know?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that. I'd have to do research on it.
Okay. God is great. Hey, JK Pioneer, thanks for joining us. Appreciate y'all. Everybody that's popping into chat, really appreciate you.
Bacon's here too.
Yep. Welcome, Bacon. Yeah, did you see that one there?
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds kind of nuts, because one of the things that they will kind of state that it's like, oh, this is one of the main reasons why we're doing this is because they think that cash, like physical currency, large amounts of it, it's anonymous and it can be kind of used for illegal transactions, but that excuse is not necessarily true for like most instances at all. So it's it's a little bit of a kind of misinformation.
Yeah, and we're getting into that. It starts to get just a little bit tinfoil hat, but maybe not when we talk about social credit systems and things like that, right? That let's say that Digital Prepper is going out on Twitter and he's speaking out against some politician or something like that, right? How easy would it be to screw with him if every transaction is through the CBDC now?
I mean, because
I'm thinking very nefariously at that point,
right?
Yeah,
but like you would have to know that person's like information, which
the chain code or whatever.
Yeah, well, not even just that. I more meant like identity information. But I guess I mean, since technically we have accounts on like like Google AdSense, so it shouldn't be it shouldn't be too hard for like the government to find out that information.
And a lot of the social media companies will willingly hand that over. From what I understand, Apple's one of the best about protecting privacy. Not that they're social media, but for tech companies, Apple's one of the best for protecting privacy.
Yeah, they're pretty good. At least as far as what I've read, they're pretty good. But I mean, at the same time, the screws get pushed into them enough, they're going to fall too.
Yeah. Prepping by Faith says, I suppose if you squeeze us for every last drop of tax dollars, that would potentially improve their bottom line. That's yeah. They want to know if there's money out there. That's right. Let the Borg take over, says Bacon. Resistance is futile.
At least they're all about efficiency.
Yeah.
Just have Chat GPT figure out how to make over $30 trillion. Shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, Robbie. I hear you. Yep. Okay, and then so number 4. This one was kind of interesting how they worded it. Increased transparency. This was considered a pro. CBDC transactions can be recorded on a blockchain or distributed ledger, enabling greater transparency and traceability, which may help mitigate fraud, corruption, and money laundering. Okay, now, true or false? Yes.
So,
as a pro, I mean.
So, look, technically, if you want to think technically, yeah, that would be a pro. However, I mean, as you've probably seen, there's been plenty of instances where um Bitcoin Bitcoin like banks, I'm sorry, I kind of lost the word, but the banks that hold like cryptocurrency, um they've been hacked. They've been hacked before, and millions of dollars have been drained from people's accounts from like from bad actors. So while technically that would be correct if they had the right security systems in place, you kind of have to ask yourself, are they gonna put the money toward those types of systems or not?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so seeing this as a pro. I think I'm thinking similar to how you're seeing this. The idea of being able to catch fraudulent activity in government agencies, in organized crime, that does sound like a pro.
Right.
I think that the type of people are okay. I had to figure out how I wanted to word this. The type of person who's going to be fraudulent anyways is going to quickly figure out other ways to be fraudulent, right? So this slows things down but doesn't stop them, right? So do I think that, like, let's say that you were some agency that was getting a budget of $50 million, for the government to do something. Do I think that just because you have been put on a CBDC that you can't figure out ways to move that money around? No.
Right.
They're going to be very clever about that. Do I think that, say, organized crime won't figure out a different way to take payment? Of course they will.
Right.
So would it slow it down? Probably. Would it catch more of it? Probably. But I don't think it completely eliminates it. And I don't think that the transparency there, I think what's going to happen is the people who are going to end up getting hurt is, Joe, your neighbor who runs a landscaping service and is taking, was used to taking part of his income in cash. And maybe he wasn't claiming it all on his taxes or something like that, but he's not a bad person, and he's not like going out and like kicking puppies or anything like that. and those guys are going to lose the most because they're not criminals. They're not, technically, right? They are criminals, but they're not like the bad guys that are out there trying to hurt people for their own benefit. They're just trying to survive. I think it's a different type of crime, right? So I think all of those types of situations will be hurt by this.
Right.
Let's see if chat said anything about that. We've talked about that before, that precious metals could be one of the alternative currencies for people who don't want to have everything on the books, if you get my idea. Yeah, and that actually, that happens right now. I don't know if people realize that, like, Tide is a black market. The bottles of Tide are used as a black market currency in some circles.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, is he talking about the soap?
yeah, the detergent. Yeah, it's again, being a therapist for 25 years, I've talked with all walks of life. I've talked with people from prison release. I've worked with first responders now. I've worked with veterans. I've worked with the poor. I've worked with people who are very wealthy. And yes, I can confirm that in some circles, Tide is used as a black market currency. I know it sounds bizarre, but it's true.
Now I have something to do research on later.
Yeah. Now, if you ask people from prisons about black market currencies, anything can become a black market currency.
Oh yeah.
If somebody wants it, it can be turned into a black market currency.
Exactly. Coffee, cigarettes, etc.
Yeah, anything. Ramen noodles.
Yeah, ramen noodles.
Ho-hos. All right, number 5, payment system innovation. CBDCs can foster innovation in payment systems and financial technologies, stimulating the development of new applications and services that can improve the overall efficiency of the financial sector. What do you think? In other words, it'll lead to even more tech improvements and efficiency.
I would disagree with that. Then I would also think, and excuse me if I'm like jumping the gun a bit, but like this type of system would honestly it would kind of screw over like private banks as well, if you like if you think about it, which those banks by themselves, they could want to have their own. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Those banks could also have, if you bank with a specific bank and that bank has ties into the central bank digital currency, then like you may or may not know that as well.
Right.
For like some of the bigger banks, not for like some of the smaller like private banks.
Right. Yeah, and I agree with you about concerns for banking industry and certain aspects of that. I don't see like big banks like Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Citibank. I don't see them suddenly going out of business. Actually, I think the government would partner with them for the rollout of this.
Right.
But do I see a need for branches and tellers? No. That there would be almost no need for tellers at all if maybe they service loans or something like that. I don't even know, but it would drastically cut down that workforce for sure.
Yep.
All right, we're moving on to cons here. Unless, did you have any that came up on your list of pros that you wanted to throw out there with that?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you kind of covered the big main ones.
Okay. All right, so now we're moving on to the cons. Same thing, true or false. And chat, jump in whenever you want here. Privacy concerns. Implementing a CBDC raises concerns about the potential erosion of privacy, as transactions and personal financial data may be accessible to the central bank or regulatory authorities. I say true, and you say?
We say true, yes.
We say true. So say we all. The thing is with this, like, I know there's going to be, the argument is going to be, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then what do you care, right? My thoughts. Go ahead. You go first.
No, I was just going to say, because like that, exactly, like that's one of the biggest concerns about moving to a central bank digital currency is, first off, they would have access to whatever kind of information on every individual that's signed up for that type of service. But then you have to ask, well, what kind of information do they have? Like, do they have just names and an email? Do they have names, addresses, social security numbers, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff? And so I mean, if they have everything, then now all of that information is just in another digital based system that, I mean, I don't care who you are, any digitally based system has the possibility of having some sort of exploit or something that would allow that thing to be compromised. And there are many ways to kind of mitigate against those kind of threats, like air gap technology and potent firewalls and VPNs, things like that. But again, those are just mitigations. You can have a 99% secure system, but you still have that 1% that the bad actors are gonna try and exploit.
Yeah. In your opinion, is there any system that's not hackable with enough resources?
I don't think so, not yet. Especially because the one of the main factors of it isn't even the systems themselves; it's the people.
Right.
You know,
That's the easiest.
social.
That's the easiest way, right?
Exactly. Social engineering, that's one of the main ways that that the bad actors get into people's systems.
Mhm.
It's the people. It's either social engineering where they put out like phishing emails and you click on a bad link and it steals your, like usernames or passwords and stuff.
Yeah.
Or it's the people that are already in those positions that, for whatever reason, maybe they got fired, maybe they're having
Mhm.
a bad
Oh,
day
yeah.
at work, whatever, and they decide, you know what, I'm going to leak all this information out because I want to.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I agree with all of that. The funniest thing is, well, it's not funny because I mean, it costs companies a lot of money. But when an IT department will send out a thing that says, "Do not open any email that says this subject line," and then like 30 seconds later, somebody does it, and like the whole agency is like flooded with emails and stuff.
Right. And I actually have a like funny story about that. One of the places that I used to work at, I was a systems administrator for them, and we had a program that would, it would do these kinds of tests, and it would show how many people clicked on the link, how many people reported the link to to our systems or whatever, and they had an issue because the tests that we were going to send out, they were too realistic. They
Hmm.
were too real, and they were gonna make people feel bad if they failed. And it's like, I don't understand. So you spend all this money to buy this system in order to test your people to make sure that your systems are secure,
Yeah.
and you care about, like, them feeling bad if they fail. If they fail, then they need to be talked to, because if they fail, that could be a huge leak of, all of your data, all of your customers' data, whatever it is.
It's going to cost
So
you a lot more than someone's hurt feelings.
right.
That's good. I like that. Yeah. So one more thought on this, then we'll move on. Because for me, this is the biggest con is the privacy concerns, and it's not about it's not about whether you're doing good things or bad things with money. It is about your right to privacy, right? So if you want to go out and buy every week 7 pounds of bacon and eat bacon for breakfast, that is nobody's business except for yours. Will you pay a price eventually? I think you will. I think you're gonna, eventually you're gonna have some health issues, but that's not my choice. That's your choice, and I respect your freedom to make that choice.
Right.
I'm concerned that stuff like that in the distant future, right? Like this is not next 10 years or whatever, that like maybe healthcare decisions are made on that. Like, oh yeah, well, sorry, digital, you decided for 5 years that you wanted to eat bacon every day. So no surgery for you. Ha ha. That, going back to like that kind of that social credit system where I'm afraid that this in the future, not the near future, in the distant future, I think it could evolve into something like that, and
Right.
that's not okay. If do I think that you, the listener out there, should spend your paycheck on booze, cigarettes, and pornography? No, but that's your business, and I'm not here to tell you what to do. You have to decide what you want to do with your money and what makes sense for you, for your ethics and your morals and your family and that kind of stuff, right? So um that kind of stuff, like, so if somebody goes out there and every week he's spending $500 on booze, cigarettes, and pornography, well, there's going to be natural consequences to that anyways, right? Like especially the cigarettes. But that's their choice, right? Like, I don't know. I just don't think that the government needs to know all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree, because that again, like, even going back to the reasoning, like that being one of their main reasonings for swapping over to this system, is because the physical currency is anonymous and it can be used to buy like illicit material or whatever it is. But it also cannot. Like, you might want to be private on, some of your purchases, and that's why you use physical currency instead of like a credit card or your debit card, is because you don't want it logged. But I guess they want to know, they want to know everything.
Yeah, and apologies to the bacon eating community out there. I did not mean that. I needed an example to work with. I have no problem with you. You eat as much bacon as you feel comfortable with. Yeah, there's a good one there.
No, direct to jail.
Yeah, you will share your information.
And this actually, real quick, that actually goes with I know you've heard of some of the credit card companies sharing the, what is it, the firearm information with like with the government and all that.
Yeah, I think it was Bank of America was one of the ones that I saw. And yeah, I mean, we don't have a national registry for firearms. So unless that changes, and it could, it's not really, you don't have an obligation to report that. So why is Bank of America giving out that information on your behalf?
Right.
Now every different, again, if you're watching this and you're like, wait, what? Every state is different, right? So I live in the South. I could, literally could go to a yard sale and pay for a firearm in cash. And I'm not saying that that's ideal either, right? Like maybe that's a little bit too loose. I don't know. But in other states, they may say, well, you have to have a firearms identification card or whatever. And so there is, to some extent, there is some tracking already that's going on with that. But that's a bigger debate. Like we probably could do a whole different video just on that topic. But yeah, privacy, like not everything, the government shouldn't need to know everything, and you should have a right to privacy,
Right.
All right. Con number 2, cybersecurity risks. Introducing a digital currency opens up new attack vectors, increasing the risks of cyber threats, hacking, and unauthorized access to individuals' digital wallets or even the central bank's infrastructure. I'm going to defer this one to you.
Yeah, I mean, as you could probably guess, that's a definite yes. That is most definitely true. Because I mean, even to think about implementing a digital currency would mean that the United States government would need to modernize and upgrade the entire country's financial infrastructure to kind of get rid of these attacks. Because I mean, like credit card companies, they get hacked
All the
not
time.
necessarily like like not necessarily like too often, but yeah, they get hacked. And this is just a huge thing because it's like putting your eggs in one basket, right? If you have one central bank and they let's say who knows how it'll be run off of, I don't know, it might be run off AWS or something. And AWS goes down, so now you can't use your wallet with your money that is rightfully yours just because the app is down for maintenance or something.
Yeah, and interestingly, the cons that I got didn't really talk about like power outages and stuff like that, which I think here when we have hurricanes, we might lose power for up to a couple weeks, and you can still conduct business if you have cash.
Oh yeah.
You can go into a store, you can buy groceries, you can buy water, you can buy a lot of stuff, but when the power's down, you're paying in cash. That doesn't really become an option legally anyways with the CBDC.
Right. And even like not even necessarily with power outages, there's been like large scale, and these aren't necessarily attacks. There's just been like large scale server outages, just because a lot of things are ran on very specific servers. I want to say a lot of like websites nowadays are they're ran off of AWS. So that's Amazon's web service.
Okay.
And like let's say they have an issue, and a lot of their server farms go down. Boom, that's like a lot of the internet that will go down, and I guess you could just go home because you don't have to work if you're gonna have to, if you have that kind of job.
I want to say hi to, I saw Doc Galt come in, Uman, D-Boy, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Appreciate you all. Should we, so D-Boy asks, should we have some money in different banks just in case? Well, this is not something that's going to happen today or tomorrow. I know some people are saying they think it's going to happen this year. I don't think so. I think best case scenario, I don't mean best case scenario. I mean the quickest possible scenario that I can envision would be 4 or 5 years. What do you think, Digital?
Yeah, from my research, it's between 5 and 10 years that we might see this, but it could be closer. But I'd say a minimum of at least 5.
Yeah. D-Boy, it doesn't hurt to spread money around a little bit. It's kind of up to you. But I would say if you have, I don't know, I don't know if anybody watching my videos has this much sitting in just a savings account, but if you have more than $250,000 in a savings account, then yes, I would absolutely spread that around because you're only covered up to, it's 250,000, right?
Yeah.
Through FDIC. Yeah. So actually that when we had a couple of bank failures earlier this year, that's what happened is you had some people with more than that amount in there, and that's not good. So you're only covered, I think it's 250,000 per bank or per account. Is it a per account or per bank?
I guess you could go with either or, right?
Yeah, I would lean towards it's per bank. So like
right.
you wouldn't necessarily, I don't think you can get around that by opening up 5 accounts and putting in 250,000 in each account, in other words. So if you're sitting on that much money just in cash, so if anybody out there is, then yeah, I would spread it around to a couple different banks.
But then also, I think you've probably said this before in some of your, like fiscal type videos, is do have some physical cash.
Oh yeah,
stored somewhere.
Yeah. And a good rule of thumb for that, I think, is, especially if you're prone to storms and stuff like that in your area, I would recommend you have enough to fill up both or however many tanks for vehicles you have in your household, a couple days worth of a hotel room, and maybe 2 weeks worth of groceries. Like that would be the minimum I would recommend for you to have for emergency cash on hand.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about that from Maccabeus?
I don't, but at the same time, if they're using like digital based, stuff for their banks, which most banks are these days, that theoretically would be a legit threat. Now, I don't know from who, but if there is some group threatening Europe's banks, then yeah, that could be a legitimate threat.
Bacon, I don't know what you're talking about. The government is the epitome of efficiency.
No, that's the AI.
The AI will be the government in the future.
Oh man, government controlled AI.
Yep. Or AI controlled government. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. All right. How are you doing on time? Are you okay for like another 15 minutes?
Oh yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay. Financial stability. The introduction of CBDC may impact the traditional banking system, and as it could lead to reduced bank deposits, potential disintermediation, affecting lending and credit creation. It didn't add this, but I'm adding in, and also the loss of like teller type jobs. Oh, thank you, D-Boy. I appreciate that. So what do you think? Would it be for financial stability? How would it affect traditional banks, do you think? Do you have any kind of speculation on that?
Have you ever been to the DMV? Oh, but no, seriously. With the whole central bank current type currency, that's actually a great question of like how would it look like physically? Like would it be a building, would they even have staff? I mean, I would assume that they would have to have, like kind of like customer service type people, or somebody to like answer questions, and things like that, unless they're gonna pawn it off on some sort of AI. But I mean, which they kind of can. Those like the customer service, like robo callers that you call into, they're getting pretty smart. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great question of how would the how would the like workload actually look like? That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this one's a little hard for me to wrap my head around, but I think for sure it's easy to see. You would see a lot of like small banks close.
Yeah.
I think you would see a lot of branches, even on the big banks, would close because there wouldn't be as big of a need for as many branches, right? So
Right.
if people aren't going to the bank to cash their checks and take out some cash and things like that, then maybe you'd have like, instead of like, say, the city of Chicago, maybe they have, I don't know what they have, but maybe they have 10 Bank of America branches, 10 Citibank branches, 10 Chase branches or whatever. Maybe they decide that, we only need one branch of each of those or whatever. I don't know exactly how it would work. I do know it would displace a lot.
Right. Because like even with some of my research, like I was reading something that was talking about with if you have a central bank digital currency, that they're probably gonna like own and run a lot, or like control all aspects of money that is, that would be like in the United States, right?
Yeah. So
So
you're saying, like, if I'm understanding you correctly, like there might not be a Citibank, there might not be a JP Morgan.
right. Either
Wow.
that or all of them would have to tie into the central bank digital currency as well. But yeah, the point being that private banking probably won't be a thing if this, like comes to pass.
Wow. I hadn't even thought about it like that. Jeez. Nothing like eliminating competition.
Yep.
Con number 4, technological infrastructure. Adopting a CBDC requires a robust and secure technological infrastructure capable of handling large-scale transactions securely and efficiently. Developing and maintaining such an infrastructure can be costly and complex.
Right. And that's exactly what we were just talking about. So like you would think that, like I said, a lot of the internet is ran off of different servers like AWS, and they you wouldn't have, if you have a central bank digital currency, they're not going to want to run their central bank on somebody else's like web servers and stuff, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna want to build their own system and do everything themselves. They might have like a few buildings that they create to house all of these servers that that host and run all this software and such for everything.
Yeah.
But one, that's so much money. I wouldn't even think like where, obviously where would they even get the money from? But that's like a separate issue. The even if they had that, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of money to kind of throw at to create your own system.
I'm sure there's a plan for it. I'm sure
You're
that
not wrong.
I'm sure there's something that's being thought of, and my head's still spinning thinking about what you were just saying on the last one. Like, so now I'm thinking like, what about like loan facilitators and stuff like that? Would that only be through government?
Uh, it could.
Wow,
It could.
wow.
Because I mean they would be the bank. They would be the bank. They would control the money,
Wow,
and if you needed lending or anything like that, it would all go through that system.
wow. That really raises some profound thoughts that I hadn't thought about before. That like just the idea of like complete elimination of any kind of bank um, competition, right? And that all, I mean, I knew about tracking, but I never thought about what that would really mean if I had to get a home loan and the only place I could go was to the US government.
Exactly.
To the Fed. To the Fed.
And then who knows, because they know all of your information, and maybe they look at like your purchase history, or like blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff, and they might go, oh well, I don't know, we see that you bought a house like 3 months ago, and you changed jobs. We're not going to give you this loan for this car. You're gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, then, and also going back to like the whole social credit thing, right? Like that, why would we give Sarge, a $500,000 house loan? He spends all his money on bacon. he's not going to live long enough to pay this thing off. It's scary. I mean, just the idea of the Fed or the government, or if you think of them as separate entities, it's quite the idea of them having complete and utter control of all financial transactions and who's allowed to borrow money and who's not. I mean, that is a really scary. That's going to keep me awake tonight.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, because it's just another layer of this that I hadn't thought of. Wow. If I wasn't against it, if I was against it before, now I'm really against it.
If you want more talks like that, subscribe to the channel.
That's right. If you're getting any value out of this, please consider subscribing and giving us a thumbs up. And don't forget to please check out the Digital Prepper. Let me drop his link again right now. There we go. Dropping it in chat. And of course, if you're watching this on replay, it's also in the description. All right. So last one on the cons. User accessibility. While CBDCs can be inclusive, and we debated that on the last part, there may be challenges for certain populations, such as the elderly or those with limited access to technology, who may face difficulties in adapting to digital payment systems. What do you think?
That I'll be honest, that's actually something that I did not think about. Only because like cell phones in particular are kind of ubiquitous. So most people have cell phones, but there's still a lot of people that are not, up with technology. So they would be, it would be a pretty severe learning curve depending on how the UI, the user interface of this entire system is.
Yeah. I definitely think there'd be people left behind. Some, like I said earlier, just don't use the banks at all right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them willingly converting over to CBDC.
Right.
Only if it became a matter of survival. And the amount of stress that this would put on, there's areas of the country that don't have good technology, good internet connections.
Right.
There's populations that struggle with learning new tech. Certainly, I'm not to pick on elderly people, but I think there is something about, like, as we get older, it gets harder and harder to keep up with changes in technology. I'm in my 50s, and I feel that, like, stuff comes out, like I'm trying to learn how to use this AI stuff, right? And it's like I feel like I'm running against a pack that's like always moving just further and further away from me,
Right.
So it's definitely a concern. It reminds me of years ago. They switched. They did a massive overhaul to the Medicare system.
Mm-hmm.
And they did this. You had the seniors who were on Medicare had to pick a Medicare Plan B, which was like how you manage your medications. And it was the most, and you had to go on the internet to do it, because, and this was years ago, when now more and more older people are using tech, and they're on the internet and whatnot. But when the early days of the internet, that was not really that common. And so, like, that was the only way that you could change your thing, unless you, and then they started letting pharmacists help people with this. But you went on, and there was like 32 different plans that they had to pick from.
Oh boy.
They had to scan in, upload stuff. I mean, it was a disaster. Saturday Night Live actually did a great skit about it, and it was like, changing over to Medicare. It showed like elderly people like playing on the computers and stuff, and they're smiling and they're happy, and they're like, changing over to Medicare, changing your Medicare Plan B is so simple and fun, you're gonna love it. And they have older people jump on the screen, they were like, I love technology. All you have to do is sign on to the internet with da-da-da. And it was like this really long website. It was like, and choose from over 350 plans.
Oh, that's nuts.
Yeah, this is making me think of, like, oh, there's gonna be people that are hurting and left behind.
Right. And you know, like, unless they make it like extremely simple, like I'm not a big Apple fan, like in terms of the company itself, but the products that they make, you know, they're like iPhones, and they're
user friendly.
Yeah, they're very user friendly. Like older people would be able to just pick one up. That's why I think most of them have like iPhones. But yeah, it's just because they're that user friendly. You can just pick it up and kind of just go with it. You don't have to like think about too much, which it's a question of would you even want a cent? I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone here really wants a central bank digital currency, but if you did, and it is that simple, that would be a problem, just because, you know, people would be like, oh, well, it's that simple, so yeah, I could just move over to it, click, drain my bank account, and it goes over to the Fed. You know.
Hey Angie, hey Broken Neck, Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival, good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Lazarus Long, good to see you. Yeah, so all right, so did you have any other cons on yours that you wanted to bring up before we start winding this one down?
I'm looking through some notes that I have. No, not necessarily. Like we have like the biggest one. The biggest one is that, you know, that there would be no need for banks, and that, you know, the Fed would own the entirety of anything monetary, which I think that's the biggest one to think about.
Wow. And the privacy, of course.
Right. Yeah. And the privacy, of course, and all the other tech issues.
Yeah. Oh, there's a good question right there. What would be the punishment for bartering outside of the digital currency?
Now, see, in that's a great question, because you would think, would there be cash anymore? That's the question that needs to be answered before before we can even answer that question. Like, would they eliminate cash altogether? Would cash even be a thing at all? You know, or would it just be, here's the digital bank, you have to use this, turn in your cash, you know, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Which I'd really hope not. You know, would gold and silver also be something that you would have to like turn in? Could you even buy gold and silver? Are they going to track you if you buy a lot of gold and silver?
Yeah, so there's been speculation about that, because there was, I mean, that's a topic for another whole other video too, but there was a gold confiscation in this country before, and so could it happen again? Sure, it could happen again. For the record, I've actually went around the city and I've given away all my gold and silver to the homeless in the city.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it's like a boat accident, you know, things just happen. Yeah, and that's Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. That's certainly something that comes to mind, right? Like, it makes you think about that. Oh man, I'm sorry, Lee. Oof.
Oh yeah, that sucks.
I hate to hear that. I'm sorry. All right, so topics that we didn't get to tonight as we start to wind this one down, and I think Digital and I are probably going to do a part 2 on this. Well, I don't know. What does your next Friday look like, Digital? Do you want to we'll set it up now?
Yeah.
Does that
sounds
okay
good to me?
Okay, we'll do that. We'll talk about it more next Friday. So topics that we didn't get to. I have some information on warning signs when that it is coming, who's helping to develop it, how they might phase it in, and is there any way to resist this? So we'll come back to some of that stuff, and if there's anything else you wanted to add in, I'll get with you about that. A couple little announcements here, and I always end with a good message here too. So first of all, I want to say thank you, Digital Prepper, for helping out. You've always been a good friend to the channel, and we always have a good time when you're on. I know several in your audience and my audience have commented that we have good synergy together. So I appreciate when you come on.
Oh yeah, I appreciate coming on.
Thanks. Father's Day. Let's talk about that for just a minute here. So I did a video for my mental health channel. I'm gonna go ahead and link that. And it was about fathers and fatherly dynamics. And there we go. I'm going to drop the link in there for you. If you're a dad, first of all, I hope you have a wonderful Father's Day. When we did Mother's Day, I just heaped on praise about how, being a mom is the most important job in the world, but being a dad is very important too. And I was blessed that I had a great childhood. My dad, who some of you have seen, I had him in one of my videos talking about his experiences in the 82nd Airborne, is a great guy. I'm so blessed. Took me to baseball games, supported me with everything that I wanted to do. We went camping together. He taught me about wilderness survival, but I recognize that not everybody has that. So if you're a dad, and if you've got kids out there, just make sure that you're spending time with them, right? And I know there's people out there that don't have a great relationship with their kid's mom. Forget about that. It's not about that anymore. It's about your relationship with your kids, and they need you, and they need you to spend time with them, right? If you're an adult, or maybe there's some teenagers out there watching this and you don't have a great relationship with your dad, well, number one, I want to say, sometimes family members get involved with stuff that we are not good for us. And if you have to have a boundary because of something like that, like they're making bad decisions, they're exposing you to bad stuff. If you have to have a boundary because of those things, 100% understand. Just because somebody's family doesn't mean that you always have to be around them, especially if they're not good for you. But if it's not like that and you just butt heads because you disagree about politics or whatever, or they wanted something different for you in life or whatever, it might be worth patching that fence. It might be worth giving them a call, see if you can repair that relationship. I think dads have an interesting role in family dynamics and everything. Of course, that's kind of stereotypical. I'm kind of appealing to, the broadest part of that curve. But there's situations where you might be a father figure too, right? Like I have a godson, and I've got a goddaughter. I've got an adult goddaughter, and I've got an adult godson. And part of my role was to help support that family with teaching the kids things about ethics, morals, life, survival, whatever, right? And so that's also a fatherly role. Maybe you're a stepdad or an adoptive dad. You're still a dad, okay? I have a stepdaughter. For as far as I'm concerned, that's my daughter, right? She's not my biological daughter. I didn't raise her, but I love her as if she's my daughter, and that's how you should think about it as well. So all that being said, my preachiness aside, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Father's Day weekend. Do something fun, cook some burgers on the grill, get out fishing, do whatever you like to do. Next week, it sounds like Digital and I are going to regroup for Friday night. We'll do part 2 of this. Next Saturday, I will be a guest on Penny Prepper's channel. You can check that out. And that's all I got for announcements. You have anything you want to throw in there, Digital?
No. Keep an eye out for tomorrow. I do have a small short just on the freeze dryer updates. So
awesome.
Good stuff.
Very good. And any other websites or anything like that you want to promote?
I already linked one in the chat regarding my kind of my opinions on this whole central bank digital currency. If any of you haven't seen it, I think it was a pretty decent video I made. Kind of going over pros, cons, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's it.
All right. Very good. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Hudson Valley Prepping Survival is teaching his son to drive this weekend. That is a great memory.
Nice.
Have fun. Enjoy that. Happy Father's Day to everybody else. Everybody in chat, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you, mods. Appreciate you all. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is the Digital Prepper and Sarge. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care, guys.